People yelled at me. I was called names. They laughed at my pain and even became physically abusive. But what left the deepest mark was what never happened. No one ever asked what I was feeling. No one sat beside me and said, "I see you." No one helped me understand that my emotions weren't something to fear or hide. That's emotional neglect. It's not just about physical actions. It's about emotional absence. The silence when you needed words. The distance when you needed closeness. The indifference when you needed care. When your pain is ignored long enough, you start believing it doesn't matter. And eventually, you believe you don't matter. I didn't grow up learning how to express myself. I grew up learning how to protect myself. I learned to read the room, not my own heart. I learned to anticipate moods, not understand emotions. I learned how to stay out of the way. That's what emotional neglect trains you to do. Become invisible. And when people yell at you, hit you, call you names, or laugh at your pain, it confirms the belief that being visible is dangerous. So you disappear inside yourself. I didn't know I was doing it. I thought I was just quiet, but really, I was terrified. Terrified of rejection, of being a burden, of making a mistake. Emotional neglect doesn't always leave bruises, but it leaves beliefs. I'm too much. I should be fine. My feelings don't matter. These beliefs follow you into adulthood as they shape your relationships, your communication, your self-worth. You don't ask for help because you're used to figuring it out alone. You don't speak up because you learned early it doesn't change anything. You don't cry because somewhere along the line you were taught that that's weakness. But healing means challenging those beliefs. It starts by admitting to yourself something was missing. Even if others had it worse. Even if your parents did their best. Even if it's hard to talk about. Because you can't heal what you won't name. And emotional neglect needs to be named. Not to stay in blame, but to finally offer yourself the care you never got. I had to learn that not having confidence wasn't a character flaw. It was a response to emotional starvation. I had to learn that pretending to be strong wasn't growth. It was armor. And I had to learn that reclaiming my identity meant feeling everything I once had to bury. Emotional neglect didn't stay in my childhood. It followed me into every room I walked into as an adult. I didn't recognize it at first, because silence looks harmless. It doesn't shout, it doesn't slam doors, but it erodes you slowly. I was the one who didn't speak up, even when something hurt. The one who said it's fine, even when it wasn't. The one who smiled and nodded, but felt hollow inside. When you grow up emotionally neglected, you learn how to be what people need, but you forget how to be who you are. So in adulthood, you carry this deep loneliness, even in rooms full of people, even in relationships, even with friends. It's not because you don't want connection. It's because connection requires vulnerability. And no one ever showed you how to feel safe being vulnerable. You might avoid conflict, because growing up, conflict meant emotional withdrawal or punishment. You might overextend yourself, because love always felt conditional. You might shut down, because you never learned how to process pain, only how to hide it. And the hardest part, most people don't see it, because emotional neglect doesn't leave scars that others recognize. You look put together, you function, you survive. But inside, you're still waiting for someone to finally notice the silence, to sit with it, to ask, what happened to you? That's the wound, and that's also where the work begins. Healing is not a straight line. Sometimes it looks like crying when you didn't used to cry. Sometimes it looks like setting boundaries that make people uncomfortable. Sometimes it looks like admitting you're not okay, even when everyone expects you to be. You're not weak for feeling hurt. You're not broken for needing connection. You're not dramatic for wanting to be seen. Reparenting yourself means giving the inner child what no one else gave them: safety, validation, permission to exist without performing. It means saying to yourself, I believe you. You don't have to earn love. Your voice matters. And when you practice this consistently, you start to rewire how you see yourself. You start to show up differently in relationships, in conflict, in solitude. You no longer default to silence when something hurts. You don't abandon yourself just to be accepted. You recognize that you are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to need things. You are allowed to be loved without shrinking yourself. This isn't about blaming the past. It's about no longer letting the past control your future. The people who failed to care for your emotions might not have known better, but now you do. And that makes you powerful, because now you get to do what they couldn't. Break the cycle, create safety, speak the truth. People yelled. People hit me. They called me names. They laughed at me. But what left the deepest mark was the silence. And breaking that silence has become my greatest act of self-respect. I see myself now. I believe myself now. I stand with myself now. And if no one else ever shows up the way I needed them to, I still will, every single day.